Hey guys, thanks for joining another fun video for Sam's Bead Shop. I have a really gorgeous design to share today that kind of evolved into a couple of different ideas. And it started with these little swirls that I was working on. I was making these settings. I wanted to do settings for the gemstones, which I'll introduce in just a second. But the whole inspiration was to do kind of like a little tiered setting with wire, and then the heart came to be. And so, through a long process of just kind of playing with wire and doing what inspired me, I came up with a bunch of other things that I feel like could become a lot of different pieces of jewelry, as well as some decor and gift items as well for like purse charms, you name it. So, what I've made here is a necklace and earrings. I also have this swirl connector that when I was speaking with Rachel, we were thinking could be cool in the chain to maybe join and add a little interest to the chain. So I might play with that, but in the bulk of the video, I'm going to be showing how to make this heart. And so it's just, oh my goodness, is that stunning or what? I get so excited every time I look at it. I'm like, hang on, I made that. Wire working is kind of like, I love wire working, but I wouldn't consider myself like as into it as the seed beading. So whenever I succeed with wire, I get kind of like, I get a little happy. So this one I feel like was definitely on the list of things I would love to make more of. The cool thing about it is like it's different every time. It's a bit of a stream of consciousness when you start working on it because it even if you have a vision going into it, you're going to have more ideas as you work. So it's not really completely planned when you first start to create. It will become just kind of like a flow you'll get into as you start wrapping. So let me introduce the materials, and then we'll talk more about the concept and like how to construct the design. All right, so these beautiful materials are the beads that I used in our design. And the very first thing you'll notice is this gorgeous seed bead mix. It's very beautiful. It's 11-0 Miyuki, and this is a custom mix. Sam's Bead Shop made this. It is inspired by amethyst and garnet. And again, that's an 11-0 Miyuki round. It's called the Winter Birthstone Seed Bead Mix. This beautiful strand here is the multi-gem faceted rounds. It's the Winter Birthstone Mix gem strand. It's a custom gem strand that they had made to go with the mix. It's stunning, and it really is kind of like the showstopper in all of the pieces that I created. Really pulls out the mix. It features amethyst, red garnet, and orange Hessonite garnet all throughout. So beautiful. Another one you might recognize is the faceted rice barrels. So these are a grade A faceted rice barrel amethyst, 6.5 to 8 millimeter, or 6.5 by 8 millimeter, sorry. And then smooth round garnet, 6.6 millimeter. And these are, I don't know if they're coming over in this image, but when I do the very close-up video during the assembly, you can really see that they're like, I'm trying to get it to show the true, forgive me, I didn't mean to bump that, but I just want to show the true beauty of these. They're almost transparent, if that makes any sense. They're like, when you get light around and under them, you can see almost right through them. And I don't know if it's really coming over, but I would say you need to see these in person because they're truly, truly gorgeous. I do have a photo where I captured it, so I'm going to have to find a way to share that as well. I'll put that in the video maybe. But so, in summary, these are the gems I am featuring and the birthstone mix that I'm featuring. And so you're going to need some other items, of course. This design's a little tool heavy. I did use a lot of tools. I also used wire. So the wire that I used, 20 gauge. And this is used in making these components here, as well as I made my own ear wires. And I also made my own jump rings. So that's 20 gauge. And then I used some 18 gauge. The 18 gauge, let me show you another example that doesn't have everything put on it, because the heart frame here, as well as, do you see these little, I call them flourishes. These flourishes were made with 18 gauge wire. So this is just an example of another heart. I was experimenting with shapes, and so this is kind of how it looks. And 18 gauge 20 gauge. I would say if you're going to work with something smaller than 18 gauge for the main frame of your design, maybe make that one of the more medium temper. But it's also okay to use 18 gauge craft wire. That would be a good choice too. And speaking of the temper of the wire, you're going to see me getting out a few times. I'm going to be hammering, so I've got a block and a hammer. And there's a lot of options and things that work for that. So just go with what you've got. And then you're going to need, I primarily focused on 26 gauge for my wrapping. And that's used in both the heart and the earrings and the flourishy connector. It is the kind of like the glue, putting everything together. So that's the wire. Let me show you tools really quick. The star of the show, bail making pliers, or often called stepped bail making or tiered. Lots of versions of these out there. Most of them have around the same measurements for the diameters of these. But the cool thing is this diameter is not critical important. The reason I went for this tool, the part that really matters, is that you're consistent with the other things you've made in the design. So it doesn't have to be the same one I'm using. It just needs to be the same one you use on all your pieces. And then you'll have, for example, a matching shape for the small rounds, if that makes it easier. It makes it easier to come up with the same, kind of like in a cohesive look. I also used it to make jump rings. So it's another great reason to have that. So there's that, and a really good pair of flush cutters. We're going to be doing precision cuts. And speaking of precision, we're going to need some very good fine chain nose. A couple of things you can use here. You can go with the smallest point chain nose you have, or if you have something like fine point, this is actually a crimper, but I often use it to push down the little ends of my coils, the little tails. Handy for here and there items also, jump rings and other things like holding things steady while you do twists and close loops. And you'll see me pulling out flat nose and bent nose in a few places. I really did bring all the tools out for this design. And let's see, just in case there's anything I haven't remembered. Oh, yeah, another one that's pretty essential. You're going to want some nylon jaw pliers. And in fact, as I'm working on the coiling and the flow of the design, I start using these almost as a tension tool to get the coils tight. So this one, it's almost constantly being picked up. So yeah, this one is a very loved tool. And so nylon jaw pliers. And then there's a few little spots here and there, making those wrapped loops, like right here, where I find it easier to use a regular round nose in place of the stepped bails pliers, because with a step bail, sometimes it's helpful to have these two top ones be the same size. So on a round nose they are, and I often go switch to those to do stuff like that. And yeah, that is everything. Oh, one other thing you might want that I just thought of, and I believe that there's other ways you can do this. Everybody's got something in their stash or in their room that will give you about a round shape, a diameter shape. And in fact, like a bead tube or a mandrel. If you have mandrels, that's even better. Go for those mandrels. But something, it's used primarily to make this little heart round shape. See, like that? Oh, a Sharpie. A Sharpie would work. So depending on how big you want, but if you want this to be, we're going to talk about how to size the heart, which is basically do whatever you want in summary. But you can make it bigger. Like, let me show you another just quick example of some things I've been playing with. So this was kind of the prototype. And on this one, I actually use this tube to shape it. That makes it so much easier to make them similar and close in size. You get to get a pretty good idea of what an end process one looks like here too. So with all of that explained, let's dive into the step-by-step. I filmed myself every step of the way, turned the camera on and off. This is a long project. Takes a really good long time to actually finish and make this. But the good news is I filmed almost all of it, and I'm going to edit it down to the essentials and show you putting the frame together, the flourishes, attaching. There's a lot of like little random chatting. So it was a really fun just deep dive into wire. And then right at the end, I'm going to show you how I made the earrings. And then again, you can turn these earrings if you'd like. I'll summarize this at the end when it's fresh after having just seen the earrings made. But as I was making the earrings, I originally intended to also do a little flourish for the chain. And so I'm going to explain the difference between these two. And I'll pop that in at the end. But basically, they have an extra loop and a little seed bead embellishment on the earring, whereas this one, I actually joined the coil one loop up. And so once you've seen these made, that will make a lot more sense. So let's dive in. Let's start playing with wire and have a little bead party. All right. All right, so to get started, you're going to want to have a larger gauge wire, say 18 gauge would be great, 20 gauge also would work, and something that's got a little bit firmer temper. But if you want to use craft wire, I would just say use 18 gauge craft wire would be a good one. You could even use 16 gauge. This is pretty flexible, so use what you have, and you want to go with a minimum of 6 inches. I think even more than 6 inches is good. You'll have a little bit more space inside your heart to do embellishing. If you have a larger heart, some of my earlier experiments, I'll show you really quick. They're all going to be really beautiful, but you can see I'm not going to be able to do as much embellishing inside of them because they're a little bit smaller. And some of the beads I'm planning to use are on the bigger side. So, but it really just depends what you're going for. If you were making an earring, for example, something small, but you can see beautiful things happen here no matter what shape you go with. So there's no wrong way to do this is kind of what I'm trying to say. It's just freestyle it. It's totally freestyle. So we'll start by making the frame and then we'll make some flourishes. A flourish is another large gauge worked element. So usually using your bell forming pliers, you make something that's a cool shape. Here's another one. Another example of a flourish. And so this is made with the same wire you use to make the frame. So choose something like that. And let's work, in this case, I'm going to use 18 gauge, 6 inches here. And I'm going to start with my bail forming pliers. I'm going to work with the second step. So that's the second largest. This doesn't need to be exact, so just whatever the second largest setting is on yours. And then flush cut your ends. If your wire is not already flush on the end, use the flush side of your pliers and just flush cut that end. And we're going to roll a P shape. I'm just bringing that around. And I'm going to make sure I close it. I find it actually easier to come along with the chain nose pliers at the end and just wiggle it a little bit closed. It doesn't have to be totally closed, but it will help you when you're, excuse me, when you're doing the wrapping step next. If the wire can't fit through there, it helps. But not super required, just helpful. All right, next step, same thing. We're going to do the same thing we did on this side, the other end of the wire, and try to keep it in plane with the first loop. So I'll just roll a P shape. Okay. And that one has made nice contact, but I'm still going to adjust it down a little bit. So just like you're closing a jump ring, right? Or maybe closing a simple loop after you've attached your element. And then the only other thing I'd recommend is if you can keep them roughly flat with each other so that they're both touching the table when it lays down. Mine's not. See, it's a little bit. So I'm going to just very gently try to bend that. If you can't do it with your hands, that's okay. Just use 2 pliers, put a little torque on it, and see if that's a little better. And at this point, before we form the shape, if you'd like, you can also just do a little bit of hammering. I'm going to go on mute for a second. All right, so for the next step, we're going to find the midpoint between these two with our round nose pliers. It doesn't have to be exact, so just eyeball that midpoint. And bring these little peas to be facing upward from your tool, like that, and bring your heart, the bottom of your heart, up into like a V shape. And I kind of overshot it a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just trying to make it roughly like a V. All right, so for the next step, I'm going to need to bring back my bill forming pliers. And in this case, there's a couple things you can use. If you feel like the bill forming plier is too small, which I feel like it's kind of right on the cusp, you could also go up to like the size of a bead tube, which is a little bit bigger. And I think that's what I'm going to do, but I have experimented with lots of different round shapes just to see what I can get. You can get some pretty cool results with a mandrel, some more exact results. But something everybody probably has on hand is a seed bead tube or a Sharpie, so you can always go with that. And I'm going to go up here by the top part of the, right next to the pea there. And I'm just going to bend this down around it. Okay, so I'm just going in a circle. So just kind of like that. Same thing on this side. We'll bring the little pea shape there. Roundabouts to meet the middle. So all of these shapes are beautiful and they all have great possibility. So whatever shape you get, just know that it's going to work because they're, and I've never made two the same. I wanted to also highlight this. I mean, I know it's possible to make two the same, but I've yet to make two exactly the same. So, and I mean that for both the stage and the part where you start adding flourishes. So, I usually don't worry about it. I just go for something that is freestyle and cool and not really stressing about the shape. But that said, you could, if you wanted to make earrings, just maybe make them back to back and you'd get something pretty close. And then keeping track of your measurements. So like for example, this one I have here, I had about 6 inches of wire and I used the bead tube and my P loops are 4 millimeters. So that might help somebody, but I like this shape. I think this is going to be my winner here. So you are going to want to, I seem to have lost some of my flatness. So I'm going to need to hammer this and then we'll start doing the next step. All right, and so for the next step, I'm going to need to make some flourishes that fit inside of my heart. And the flourishes look like this. I'm going to show you on this other example. So you can make them any shape you want. They can be kind of weird. They could be like this one right here. It's easier to see from the other side. You see, I kind of just did something a little wavy. So take a look at your piece, the one that you're going to be filling, and then just maybe line up. I put P loops on these already. They're the same exact P loops I did for that. And just take a look. It actually does not matter where you start and where you finish. So I know I might want a little bend here and a larger bend here. So I'm going to start with, say, this one here. And again, this is totally freestyle. So just anything that you like, right? And after each little bend, I just take a look and try to figure out, okay, if I was to anchor that here, for example, maybe my next curve can be over here. So maybe I'll curve it this way. Something like that. And now I'm going to take this end and form another P loop with it. And I'm using the same second step to make each of the P loops, so they're all the same size, but that itself is not required. The only reason I didn't go with the smallest one, in my case, is I discovered that it's easier for me to do wire work through that than a tinier hole, because I think this one would be like the 2 millimeter or 3, I'm not sure. So there's one, and again, it's not flat, it needs to be hammered, but I'm seeing like maybe that could be this one. I could do something like that. That looks cool. So feel free to just play. Make something you like. Let me see if I can make this one smaller. You may not be able to fit more than 2 in. And even in my larger one, I felt like 2 was plenty. As far as 2 flourishes, I mean. Let's go like that. Okay. How does that look? Rolling a P-loop here. All right. That's a nice one too. So I wonder if I could fit that one over here. Yeah, so there you go. This is going to be a totally different version than my experimental first one. But like I was saying, like there's really no wrong way. You can just make anything you want. I think this looks more like a heart. I felt like this one just did not have enough drop in the center. So I just wanted something a little more heart-ish. So this one is working for me. But other ways you can achieve that look is to really go to town with making your frame have a real drop in the center. So lots of ways you can make lots of great hearts. You can even combine hearts. Same way we're going to combine these flourishes. So I need to pause the camera real quick and hammer these. What you're going to want to do is cut a length of 26 gauge. 24 would be okay too, especially if you went with the 18 gauge like I did, but I happen to just have 26 and I'm going to go with that. And your length for how much to cut here, you don't want it to be too unwieldy. Adding is really easy because in a lot of cases you're going to want to maybe jump to another position, and so you're going to be finishing off a coil and trimming it and moving to a new spot. So give me a second, I can't find my end here. All right, I found it. Okay, so for this I cut different lengths. I wouldn't go any bigger than, I think the maximum I might go is 10 inches. I'm going to eyeball what looks like a comfortable coiling length for me. It's right about there. If you have too much wire, it's just like a lot to pull through. So don't feel like you have to cut a lot. And I'm going to go ahead and flatten this out. So with some nylon jaw pliers. All right, so getting started is always the trickiest part. I'll just bring that to meet. Just right there, and I'm going to start to roll the wire around it. Okay. And I'm going to grab my chinos. Where do those go? Those are right here. I'm going to bring that one up. And I'm the slowest wire worker on the planet. I'm really careful. And so I'll need to press that down in a minute, but I want to just have a way to get it started. So I'm just going to hold it there. There we go. Okay. And so bringing this through, make sure I don't get any wire kinks there. Right on. And around. So far so good. And now I might actually take my pliers and just get in there and press that down. Okay. So this is where having those coils be a little, the P's that we made, being a little bit, number one, more closed here, see? And also a little bit bigger. It's easier to get your wire through without a kink. And the secret to not getting a kink is to roll it into the roundest shape possible before you try to pull it through. So just like that. Still holding everything. Going around. Not wanting that to turn into a little bubble there. Okay, so now I'm going to hold everything tightly, run my nylon jaw pliers on my 26 gauge wire to make sure that doesn't get too bent out of shape. And now we should start to have something that's a little bit better formed. So I'm going to just put those coils together. If you want these sitting flat, so if you have them layering up like mine are, catch that before you do any finishing touches to your coils by just coming along and flattening them down. All right, so far here's what I've got. And I'm going to give that one more just for strength. So one more trip around. All right. So there's one side, there's the other side. Okay. Once you're happy with that, then it's time to have some fun deciding about the design. So again, I'm just gonna put that flat on my mat here. And I think I want to, my wire's currently behind the frame. I would like it to have one more trip around. I'd like to bring it this way. There we go. And just at this step, it is easier to work with it pressed down, just so you don't get the lapping of it, for it to layer up, right? So here I've got this wire back up this way. And everything is looking great. So what I think I'd like to do is I'd like to put a bead here in that circle. So let's grab one of the little tiny gems. And let's start by putting that here. So here at the back. And you could also, if you wanted to, start connecting everything, but I kind of do it all in process because my next goal is to travel over here and join these. And I'm actually going to use a bead to get me there. So some people do form their shape and do all of the connecting before putting a bead on, but I kind of don't. So just a little cheeky. But I'm going to bring this wire to the front because I've decided that this side facing the mat right now is my front. So I do need to bring my coil through one more time. There we go. And again, that's going to wiggle on me, and that's okay. Now let's get my bead. Bring that down. Okay. And now I'm going to bring this through this one. All right, so this is basically the gist of it. Back up through this back loop here. I'm gonna pull that a little tighter. One thing I like to do when I'm pulling my wire is I'll use my nylon jaw pliers to get everything to stay tight. All right, back down through here. And I'm kind of pulling in the direction I want to go. There we go. And from here, I want to go through one more time. So this is my trick for tight coils, is I use my nylon jaw pliers every time to kind of get those to coil together. Let's lay it flat every so often and just make sure everything is still fitting properly. This motion will sometimes misshape your connections. So there's that. All right, so freestyle time. I'm just gonna freestyle around. So I'm gonna wrap along this top edge. I'm gonna add some seed beads as I go. I might add another gemstone. I don't actually know yet because I'm gonna just see what my hands want to do, basically just saying, hey, what looks good to you? So I'm just coiling now. Every so often I'll come in with the chainless pliers. And I think this actually look good without me modifying them too much. But you see, we're going along. All right. And let me get some seed beads strung really quick. Actually, you know, I said seed beads and then I had another idea. I'm going to grab the largest gemstone and maybe bring it just up like that. So I'm going to settle it. I want it to sit there in the corner. So hold it in that spot. And let's just do some coiling. Okay.
All right. And again, I want to grab the island jaw. There we go. Now I'm going to do some seed beads. Something I really love doing is I love to bring seed beads around a gem. So I'm going to string a number of seed beads that will connect me over here. So there's 11 seed beads. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's going to be great. 11 is kind of the magic number for going around that gemstone, the rice shape. And from here, just going to go ahead and coil it. All right. So it's really coming together. This is going to be quite pretty. All right, so so now I've got a traveling thing. I need to make a decision. I kind of want to get over here now, but I've got my wire here at the top. What I could do, and I've discovered this, making the other one, is sometimes you can use a gemstone to move you. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to push this a little bit closer so I can get one more clean coil in there. There we go. Perfect. Okay, bring this up. So much of this is just getting around the component itself. My next goal is just to kind of get over here and join everything. Let's put it flat on the mat really quick. This kind of really is the secret to getting everything to stay put where you'd like it to. Okay, so now we're here. Let's do a jump over here using another bead. And now I'm just going to audition some beads onto this wire. Let's see how this one looks. And that one down. And actually, I do think that's good. But maybe, let's grab another color. There we go. That's a pretty one. Look at that. All right. Maybe seed beads is the answer. What I want to do is I want to fill that space. Let me string some seed beads. All right, I think I have the answer. I'm going to string seed beads and actually go back around the rice gem. So there's 8, 9, 10. I'm stringing here off camera. 11, 12. So I added 11 before, so here's 13 beads. And see if that's going to be enough to get me around and over here. Yeah. All right. So I think I got it. I'm just coiling now. And we'll go through one more time. I kind of like 3 coils. I feel like that makes things pretty strong. And here, sorry about that for going off camera. I'm going to just line them up just to make them pretty. Okay. And this slid around on me a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to move that back. All right. I just like to press that down a little more. So cool. Okay, let's keep going. So from here, I'm getting right next to where I want to be to join this. So to join that, lots of options. Let's bring this up through here. And we could add another round of seed beads, but I feel like 2 looks really nice. Maybe that stone I wanted to use before is the answer. Let's see. That does look nice. Let's get a few seed beads before I put it on though. We'll go 1, 2, 3. I put 3 seed beads in now. I'll add the stone. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, okay. See, that's gonna look really nice. See, we're just kind of like filling in the space and making it look really pretty. And I'm gonna bring this up. So I've already kind of gone through this wire. We're gonna be adding another bit of wire here in just a minute. But look where I am. Mission accomplished. That's where I want to be. So let's go ahead and I'm going to let this one kind of settle back through here like that. Bringing that right back up. And this needs a little adjusting again. There we go. Okay. So bring this up through that loop. And after this now, this should stop moving around on me so much. Right on. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and straighten that. All right, so see how quickly we filled in that top corner? I mean, that's already filled in and it's 100% different than anything else I've ever made. So I'm really loving how that looks. Let's lay it flat on the mat. Now look what's happening. Things are stable. Things are staying the way I want them to. But I need to think about a couple of things before I go any further. Of course, I'm going to need to do another out of wire. But I need to make sure that I didn't make any changes that have affected the position of where I wanted to add this other one. And that can happen as you're working because you are giving slight bends to things, you know, as you go. So I think I'd planned for this one to just kind of be like that, roughly. And so there's opportunities to join here, 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 here against the frame, there against the frame, and there against the frame. So those are my goals. Join, 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 and join. So still not ready for this one yet. What I'm going to do here, and I'll try to record a lot of it, I'm going to grab a new wire. I'm going to start right here. I'm going to coil around that, embellish, and get myself to here to lock it in, get myself over here to lock it in. So let's do that. Structurally, things are getting really sound. Like things are not wiggling on me anymore. So maybe it's a good time to introduce the other component, the leather flourish that we've got, because it's going to be touching. And maybe we want to go with something like that. So yeah, let's look. Let's take another look. It's different every time I set it down. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so let's go around one more time. Okay. What did we like? We liked... Gonna feed this on, so just like that. I think we thought maybe like that. It's possible I flipped it. Let's look. Oh, I did. Okay, sorry about that. Feed that one on that, so that way. Aha, there we go. Yeah, okay. So play with it. Don't commit until you're sure. Right here. Okay, so I'm just gonna go around. And this is going to be a little trickier because I can't do the pushing up through. I have to feed it through. So I'm going to go a lot slower. And I feel the need to add more bead. So let's go ahead and go one more trip up through here just for getting a nice coil. So I'd like to get over here. So I'm going to introduce a bead here. Let's audition a few and see what happens. I think I would actually like to do one of these. So we'll string that on. And now I can go around this spot here. So let's just make that a little tighter. And I'm going to need to add a lot more beads, but for now I'm just kind of getting around where I want to go. Mainly what I want to do right now is I want to get an idea for the shapes that I've got, and while this second one is wiggling, it's harder for me to tell what shapes I'm going to have. So let's just tighten this down. Let's give this a third coil. It's so funny. I rehearsed this a bunch of times. I've actually filmed a few versions of it. And what I found is you can't rehearse these. They're, I mean, you probably could, but I found for me what really worked was just showing the freestyle event, because that was how I was enjoying myself when I was actually making some of the samples. Was when I wasn't trying to plan it. I was feeling happier, like it was just working out. So that's definitely part of the process of just enjoying what you're doing. I think it's probably 90% of it, to be totally honest with you. You got to enjoy it. All right, so let's get another one of these. And slide that down. Oh, look at that. Isn't this cool? It's just coming together. All right. Okay, so I'm going to join this one over here. Nice. Okay. I need another beautiful bead. Let's go. Let's try to use, yeah, this one, beautiful. Let's slide this on, and I think you guys know what I'm going to do. I'm going to pop this one right in there. And now I can join to this side. There we go. So this is just working out wonderfully. So what I'm going to do now, I've got the main structure, but can you start to spot places where we can go crazy? So everything is pretty much linked up and attached to the best spots. I mean, I might do something here, but I don't think they're joining as well as I thought they were going to. I could maybe force them to by adjusting a little bit. Who knows? I'm not sure what's happening here yet. We'll figure it out. But I know one thing for sure. I'm going to do a seed bead arc here, right up at the top. Then I'm probably going to attach another gemstone in either one or both of these spots. And then I'm going to do some seed beads around gemstones. So just like we were doing before with these, I was going around with the seed beads. I'm going to do similar things. Just play, go crazy. And I'll turn the camera on periodically as I do something interesting. But that in a nutshell is how to do one of these freestyle hearts. Just showing some progress. So I've just been freestyling it. I actually decided to bring the seed beads around those beads because that happened kind of accidentally, and I looked and I thought, hang on, that's really cool. I liked the way that looked, so I kept that. And now I'm here making a decision about where to go next. And so I feel like I want another one of these, kind of like maybe like that. But I'm gonna just look and see how I like it. And that looks kind of cool, doesn't it? So yeah, just keep going. Here's another cool thing to show. So I've got some more beads added, and I'm at a spot here where I have a little bit of wire left, and I've got kind of the larger beads where I like them. Well, I just strung a bunch of seed beads here. See, and I'm going to see what happens if I go around now. And this is kind of how I came up with the other one that I was doing, where you just kind of want to try to get them to make a little, even like a little circle. So I'm going to need some more. I'm going to bring that over here and add another stone there. All right, so see, I got that to flourish all the way around right there. And then here at the back, you can see that I was able to coil it at that spot. And now I can add a Another one of these beautiful stones. Oops. Just going to trim that really quick. All right. There we go. Every time I add one, I just think it's the coolest thing. All right, so here at the back, I'm just going to feed it through and coil it a little bit. There we are. Let's trim that. All right, so let's just see where do I feel like it needs more. Let's take a look. And I'll give you a little closer view of it. What do we think? I think I want to add at least a few more stones and some more seed beads. I'm looking at this area here thinking it needs some stuff. So let me add a new wire, go a little crazy, see what we got. All right, so it is really starting to come together now. I've added some more seed beads, some more stones. And at any point I feel like I could, you know, do something different. But right now I feel like I might want to add just one more spot. So right now I'm just trimming. You'll reach a point in this design where getting around and traveling around is less convenient because there's things that you would have to go around. And you don't want, unless you want your wire showing, but my goal is to kind of not cover up anything with the wire. So I just trimmed. You see, I'm going to flatten that little end down right there at the back. And that was just my little, I'd added this stone and this little flourish. So now what I feel like it needs, and I still have this little bit of wire left, I feel like it needs seed beads around this area right here. Like really what I want to do is another seed bead smile around this stone here to make it more of a focus. And so I'm going to have to figure out a spot to join. And I think a really good spot would be probably right there. Seems like a great spot actually. So I'm going to go ahead and just coil this around on that little wire there. All right, so I just coiled that around. And I'm just going to straighten those out. So here I am where I want to be. Right about there. And I'm just going to go ahead and straighten the wire again. And let's string some seed beads and we'll go around. And so I strung 11 and now I'm going to just kind of like weave around with it. And from here, this looks like a good join spot right there. So I want to show, after I get this going, how I can kind of maneuver it. I think it's better to push the wire through like that. But if you're having trouble getting a hold of it, if you grab your chain nose pliers at the back, you can kind of help the wire come through. And so that's something I've been doing now as things get kind of a little bit tight, is I just kind of use those pliers to either reach up from underneath and pull the wire up or pull it down from the back. But let's make sure I've got that exactly as I want it. And so, there we go. Yeah. Okay, so I just kind of, you know, wanted it to go, maybe it's a little travel around the beads. And let's go around right here. There we go, at the back there. Tighten that up. I don't know, do I call it done or should I do more? Let's take one look. Maybe we could add a little more down here. Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to come around with the wire one more time and get myself right to about here. And let's string some more seed beads. So that's how to do it in a nutshell. I'm going to go ahead and I'm happy now. I think this is beautiful. I think my suspension point is going to be over here. So I did leave an area of bare wire. It's going to hang from the side. I thought that would be neat. But you can really make it suspend from anywhere. I do need to just repeat this coil a few more times and trim it. All right, we want to make sure when you do these little trims that you press your coils down. And so the one that I just did was right here. And so just make sure you press those little ends down. so that when you're wearing it, it doesn't snag. You can just run your fingers over it, make sure there's no snag points. So that in a nutshell is the beautiful heart. I'm going to show you one more thing really quick. If you want to stick around, I'm going to show you a way to embellish a sweet chain as you suspend it. So as I was saying before, I'm going to have mine go from like right here. And I think that from here, what would look very beautiful are 2 jump rings. I think jump rings would be the way to go. But then from each of those jump rings, the chain coming up from the bottom should have something interesting along the way. So as a bonus, I'm going to show you how to make this little component, and then afterward we'll take 26 gauge wire and we'll embellish it with stones. So just like we were doing before, you can put 26 gauge wire and you can get the beautiful stones to sit inside. Oops, sorry. Just like that. So first I'm going to show you how to make this little swirl, and then I will show you how I did the wrapping as well. But just in summary, it's kind of the same thing we did for the heart. But see that, how pretty that is? So that can become an earring, but also it can become, probably I would do it further up the chain, like maybe midway of the chain. It can become a link. So you just attach my jump ring to one side, jump ring to that side, and we could even put one more bead in there if we wanted. So I'll show you how to do that. But let's go ahead and start by getting the 20 gauge wire. All right, so, eyeball about 7 inches of 20 gauge wire and use your nylon jaw to flatten it out as best you can. I just usually hold one end and just like that. All right, let's get the bail forming pliers. So we're going to work a series of twists on the bail formers. Identify the midpoint here. And at the midpoint, just go ahead and pinch it. Okay. We're going to bend around the smallest first with both wires. So you see how I'm doing that? And I'm going to cross them. And then take it off the tool. So you should have something that looks like that. And then what you're going to want to do is position the tool back through, but so that the second tier is the top next one. And then bring this up and around and over like that. And remove it from the tool, and you'll have this swirly. All right, so the next thing you're going to want to do, and I'm going to raise the camera really quick. All right, and so for the next one, what I did is I skipped this third and I went up to the 4th size. And so to get the 4th size on there, you're going to want to position it. You're not going to be able to get this whole thing through as you needed to. So what you're going to need to do is just kind of position it like that, just on the side. So just like that, see? And start bending the side that is secured around, but stop when you get it to like the midpoint there. And then just kind of adjust as close as you can get there. Bring the other side up. Bring the other side up like that to meet. So that's how I positioned the large one. And now you can make another large one much more easily. There you go. So you should have 2 like that. And now let's make a small. 3rd. All right. And optionally you can do a 4th. I did a 4th on my first one. So flip the tool, put that one here. And when you get to this spot, make sure you just pull it tightly before you pinch down, because you don't want to, these are going to try to spread apart, right? So you just want to kind of hold that together and then go ahead and bring these up. One over that way and one over that way. All right, so you'll have this configuration, which is really pretty, but we're going to do a wrap loop at the top. So I just wanted to point out that if you wanted to have only 2 loops at the top and 2 loops at the bottom, this is actually the perfect way to do an earring, because you'll have your ear wire here at the top, And that way we just kind of, you know, hang like that. But what I wanted to mention was if you eliminated putting this top one, knowing you're going to have this loop, as a link that might even be cuter. So I may play with that, in which case this would be right above that. You just not have this one. And then you'd have too small, too big, too small. I might have to play with that a little bit, but the same instructions apply to no matter how many coil, oops, sorry about that. No matter how many coils or little loops you make, the same instructions. So let's do this part. And take the square nose is the way to go here. Bend up, okay. So you'll have like that. Same thing with this one. Bend up. Bring those to meet. So you have something like that. And now you're going to want to get round nose pliers. And with your round nose, position them right above the loop. So make sure those are staying nice and close. All right. And bend one wire forward and leave one wire up. So like that. And trim the tall one. So you have like that. All right. And now move your plier so that you can bring this one around and over. And flip the plier again so you can complete that into a circle. So far we have that. And then switching to my chain nose pliers just to hold on to my loop. I'm going to go ahead and coil around. So just go ahead and finish that coil and just flatten it down on this side. There you go. All right. So there they are. Got the same number of coils. So that in a nutshell is how to do one of these links. The number of these that you do is completely optional. So now we're going to grab 26 gauge wire now. And we're going to position our stones. What I usually do is I start here at the bottom. So let me show you at least starting it. You'll need about, let's go ahead and see what that is, like 10. And let's smooth it out. Coil to the bottom. Let's get that tail down right there. Make sure this wire here is right here at the front. No. I might even do a seed bead there because I think my original vision was to have, yeah, look how seed bead looks nice there. I think it was to have the stone in the next one. So seed bead instead, change of plans. We'll pull this down. There we go. Yeah. All right, so I got the seed bead in there and I coiled it around and I had to tighten it down. All right, now here we go. Here we go with the beautiful gemstone here. All right, same thing. We're just going to need to feed that through the next loop and pull. Okay, you see how that locks down? So keep doing that. Keep doing that to add. I'm probably going to go from here to this stone. Well, right there. And then, you know, the next stone up here will be this one. And basically what you do is you just coil. So from here, I do need to feed it just through there like that, right? Just so you get the idea what we're going to be doing. We're just going to go all the way up. And it takes a little more strength because we're having to do the pulling instead of being able to feed it through. So what I do is I kind of put the component flat each time and just go ahead and pull up on the wire if you can. Best you can like that, see? And then it'll tighten up and then you can bring it forward and up to the next loop to add your next gemstone. All right, so yep, just keep coiling. And see at the back, I'm doing just, you know, twice around. In this case, it looks like once on the back, but the front will have two. So you see how it's just going up like that. It's easier. It's nice and secure. For the top one, I'm going to match what I did on the bottom. I feel like a seed bead fits better for the ending. Oops, I dropped my seed bead. Sorry. Let me grab another one. Okay. Bring that down. But even like an 8/0 seed bead there would be great too. And so for this one, for the top one here, I mean, you could even add another gemstone if you wanted. Let me see how it looks before I proceed, because I think you can get away with either. Well, let's look. I'm gonna grab a different color. There we go. The garnet would be good. All right, there we go. So now I think I'm gonna go with that. Get yourself as close to the top here as you can. Hold everything tight and bring the wire back behind it. And at this point, just do some good old coiling. See? Just like that. And so you could trim it now if you wanted to here at the back, maybe make one more trip. Why not? But, or you can keep going and do like a messy wrap all over the top of the big one. I've done versions of that, different versions of that as I go.
I hope you loved this video. I hope you learned something or just had fun. And before we close up the video, I was going to show everything all finished one more time. And now that you've seen the earrings constructed, I'll explain a little bit more about the connector. And I thought I would put the connector on really quick. So let me show you that really quick. It's a really fun just little addition. So if you've made the earrings, you've seen that we put the seed bead right at the bottom. You can make that same design, leaving one loop off at the top, and start your coil instead of at the bottom, start at one up in the circles, right? And then just do your wraps, just add in stones to the top, and you'll have a link that has a little loop on both sides and the same amount of stones. And then if you've got a chain attached to your heart and you want to, we can add a little flourish going up the chain on either side. So that was kind of my plan. And so what I was thinking is I'll just show you really quickly how I did that, or how I'm going to do that because I haven't done it yet. I'm going to go ahead and just measure by just laying them right next to it so I know where to cut. So, I want my lengths to be the same. So I've got this chain laid out. It's perfectly like parallel as it would hang, so I can get those measures good. So I'm going to cut here and here. So we'll start with that one. All right. And then we'll cut this one. Okay. And then I'll just get jump rings and attach them either spot here, do the same here. And there we go. So I just went ahead and removed these little segments of chain and saved those little segments because you can use them. But I'm gonna just cut those little segments out that were the lengths of these. Look, become something cool for like an earring later. That would actually be really fun to do. And added them to my chain in two different spots. I thought that would look really cool. So it's giving it kind of like a little asymmetrical hanging. Let's try to get that to look all as I like it. So there it is. A little flourishing chain with our beautiful heart. And thank you so much for watching this video. We'll see you for the next one.